The full moon hung low over the jagged peaks of the Sierra Madre, casting an eerie silver glow on the dusty streets of a forgotten village in Chihuahua, Mexico. Have you ever felt that chill down your spine? The kind that whispers of secrets buried in the shadows, where one wrong step could lead to vanishing forever? What if the night itself decided to claim you, leaving you to freeze under its unblinking eye? Before we unravel this tale of loss and hidden bonds, tell me, where are you tuning in from tonight and what's your name? Share it in the comments. I promise it'll make this story feel a little closer to home. In the heart of that remote village called El Silencio, where the wind howled like distant wolves and the air carried the faint scent of pine and regret, lived a young woman named Sofia Ramirez. She was 25, with sun-kissed skin from years of tending her family's small cornfield, and eyes that sparkled like the stars she often gazed at during sleepless nights. Sofia wasn't one for the spotlight. She preferred the quiet rhythm of village life, helping her widowed mother Rosa at their modest adobe home on the outskirts. Rosa, a sturdy woman in her 50s with calloused hands from decades of weaving baskets for the market, doted on her only daughter. "Mi niña," she'd say, her voice warm but laced with worry. "The mountains have teeth at night. Stay close." But Sofia had dreams that pulled her toward the wild. She worked part-time at the local cantina, serving cold Coronas to truckers passing through on the winding highway to Copper Canyon. There, amid the laughter and clinking glasses, she'd overhear tales of disappearances, folks who wandered off into the desert and never returned. The villagers whispered about cartels, wild animals, or worse, spirits of the old Tarahumara people who guarded the land. Sofia dismissed it as superstition, but deep down, a curiosity gnawed at her. What lay beyond the village lights? Why did the full moon always seem to call her name? It was a crisp autumn evening when the tension began to coil like a serpent in the underbrush. The village buzzed with preparations for the annual Luna Llena festival, a blend of Catholic saints and indigenous rituals to honor the harvest moon. Strings of colorful papel picado fluttered from rooftops, and the air filled with the sizzle of carnitas frying in huge vats. Don Miguel, the grizzled zelador of the old church, a man with a limp from a long-ago fall and a perpetual squint from staring at the horizon, oversaw the setup of the bonfire in the central plaza. "This moon's different," he muttered to anyone who'd listen, his voice gravelly from years of smoking hand-rolled cigarettes. "Feels heavier, like it's watching us." Sofia helped Rosa string lanterns along their fence, her laughter light as she teased her mother about dancing with the handsome vaquero from the next ranch over. But as dusk fell, a strange restlessness settled over her. The moon rose full and bloated, painting the landscape in stark contrasts of light and shadow. Sofia felt it in her bones, a pull like an invisible thread tugging at her chest. She shook it off, blaming the chill wind whipping through the arroyos, and headed to the cantina for her shift. The place was packed, bodies pressed close under the low ceiling, the jukebox blaring corridors about lost loves and border crossings. Behind the bar stood Javier, the cantina's owner, a burly man in his 40s with a tattoo of the Virgin of Guadalupe peeking from his sleeve and a quick smile that hid his sharp business sense. He'd known Sofia since she was a girl and treated her like family. "Oye, Sofia, you look pale," he said, sliding a tray of limes her way. "Don't let the old stories get to you. Just pour the drinks and keep smiling." She nodded, forcing a grin, but her mind wandered to the window where the moon reflected off the glass like a watchful eye. As the night deepened, the festival spilled into the streets. Laughter echoed, fireworks popped in the distance, and couples swayed to mariachi tunes. Sofia stepped out for a breath of air during a lull, the cool mountain breeze carrying the scent of mesquite smoke. She wandered a bit too far, drawn by the silvery path leading toward the edge of town, where the desert met the foothills. The ground crunched under her boots, and she paused at an ancient petroglyph carved into a boulder, a wolf-like figure howling at the sky. Her heart quickened. What was that sound? A low, rhythmic howl, faint but unmistakable, echoing from the ridges above. Back at the cantina, Rosa arrived looking for her daughter, her face etched with concern. "Has Sofia left already?" she asked Javier, wringing her hands. He shrugged, but Don Miguel, nursing a tequila at the corner table, leaned in. "I saw her heading toward the old trail, told her it's no place for a girl alone under this moon." Rosa's eyes widened. The disappearances, always under the full moon, they said. Young people lured by lights in the hills or whispers in the wind. She rushed home, lighting candles to San Antonio, the patron saint of lost things, her prayers a desperate murmur against the night. Sofia pushed deeper into the brush, the festival's lights fading behind her. The air grew colder, biting through her thin sweater, and frost began to form on the cactus spines. Why couldn't she turn back? It was as if her feet moved of their own accord, guided by that insistent pull. The howls grew louder, a chorus rising from the darkness, sending shivers racing across her skin. She stumbled over a root, scraping her knee, and tasted blood on her lip from biting it in fear. "Hello?" she called softly, her voice swallowed by the vastness. No answer, only the wind rustling leaves like secrets being shared. Then a shadow detached from the rocks, a massive figure, silhouetted against the moon. It wasn't human. Its eyes glowed amber, and its form shifted subtly, muscles rippling under fur that caught the light. Sofia froze, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The creature didn't attack. Instead, it tilted its head, as if listening to her very heartbeat. In that moment, a whisper slithered through the air, deep and resonant, like thunder wrapped in velvet. "You're one of us. Come home." Panic surged through her. She turned to run, but the cold intensified, the ground slick with ice, forming unnaturally fast. Her limbs grew heavy, the full moon's gaze pinning her in place as exhaustion clawed at her edges. She collapsed against a boulder, the world blurring, the howls closing in. Was this how the others had vanished, left to freeze, forgotten by the world? Miles away, in the hidden packlands deep in the Sierra, a powerful figure stirred. The Alpha King, known only as Reyes among his kind, a towering man with scars from battles long past and a presence that commanded loyalty, felt the bond snap into place. His pack, a tight-knit group of shifters who'd evaded human eyes for generations, sensed it too. Elena, his beta and lifelong confidant, a fierce woman with braided hair and eyes like polished obsidian, placed a hand on his arm. "It's her, isn't it? The lost one." Reyes nodded, his voice a low growl. "We bring her home, before the hunters find her first." As Sofia's vision dimmed, the frost creeping up her fingers, she wondered if she'd ever see El Silencio again. The moon watched impassively, its light a cruel promise of revelations yet to come. What secrets did the pack hold? And why did that whisper feel like destiny calling her name? Hey, what do you think happens next? Drop your guess in the comments. Does Sofia fight back? Or does she surrender to the pull? If this hook has you on edge, smash that like button and subscribe for the full unraveling. We can't let these stories fade into the night. Sofia's body trembled against the rough granite of the boulder, the cold seeping into her like an unwanted embrace. The frost wasn't just on the ground anymore. It licked at her skin, turning her fingertips numb and blue-tinged under the relentless moonlight. She tried to push herself up, her palms slipping on the icy surface, but her muscles betrayed her, heavy as lead. The howls encircled her now, closer, a symphony of wild calls that vibrated through the earth and into her chest. Was this the end? Vanishing into the night like so many others from El Silencio, their stories reduced to whispers around the bonfire. In the distance, the festival's faint music drifted like a mocking lullaby. Guitars strumming tales of love and loss, fireworks popping harmlessly against the sky. But here, in the shadowed embrace of the foothills, reality twisted. Sophia's mind raced back to the cantina, to Javier's easy laugh and Rosa's worried eyes. If she could just call out, maybe Don Miguel would hear, with his sharp ears tuned to the wind's secrets. But her voice caught in her throat, silenced by the chill that wrapped around her lungs. The shadow from before, the wolf-like figure, padded closer, its paws silent on the frozen grass. Up close it was enormous, shoulders broad as a man's, fur a deep midnight grey that shimmered like oil under the moon. Its amber eyes locked onto hers, not with hunger, but with something almost knowing. Sophia's heart hammered, a frantic drum against her ribs. She wanted to scream, to scramble away, but the pull in her chest intensified, like roots burrowing deeper into unfamiliar soil. "Stay back," she whispered, her breath fogging the air in fragile clouds. The creature paused, ears twitching, as if weighing her words. Deeper in the Sierra's hidden valleys, where jagged cliffs guarded ancient caves like silent sentinels, the pack moved with purpose. Reyes, the Alpha King, strode through the mist-shrouded pines, his boots crunching over pine needles dusted with frost. At 6'4", with a frame honed by centuries of survival, though he appeared no older than 35, Reyes carried the weight of his lineage like an invisible crown. His dark hair fell in waves to his shoulders, streaked with silver from battles against rival packs and human encroachers. Scars crisscrossed his forearms, souvenirs from claws and bullets alike, hidden now under a worn leather jacket that smelled of earth and smoke. Eleanor kept pace beside him, her braids swinging like pendulums as she scanned the tree line. She was his right hand, a beta who'd earned her place through cunning and unyielding loyalty. At 32, Elena's lithe build belied her ferocity. She'd once taken down a poacher single-handedly, her obsidian eyes flashing with the same fire that now burned in her gaze. "The bond's strong, Reyes," she said, her voice low and edged with excitement. "She's awakening, but the frost, it's the moon's trial. If we don't reach her soon, she'll slip away." Reyes grunted, his jaw set like carved stone. He'd felt the snap earlier, a jolt through his veins that confirmed what the elders had prophesied. The lost pup, the one whose bloodline had been severed generations ago by human fear and betrayal. Sophia wasn't just any wanderer. She carried the mark of the pack, dormant until this full moon stirred it awake. "We move fast," he ordered, his tone brooking no argument. "Lobo, flank left. Mira, scout ahead." Lobo, a lanky shifter in his 20s with a perpetual grin and a scar across his cheek from a youthful scrap, nodded eagerly. He was the pack's scout, quick on his feet and quicker with a joke to lighten the mood. Mira, older and more reserved, a healer with gentle hands and a no-nonsense demeanor, shifted seamlessly into her wolf form, her silver coat blending with the night as she bounded forward. Back on the trail, Sophia's vision swam, the world tilting into shades of silver and black. The wolf creature, no, it was shifting now, fur receding like melting snow, revealing a man. Tall, broad-shouldered, with wild dark hair and eyes that still held that amber glow. He wore faded jeans and a threadbare shirt, but his presence filled the space like a storm about to break. "Easy," he murmured, kneeling beside her, his voice rough but not unkind. "The cold's fighting you, but you're stronger. Breathe with me." Sophia recoiled or tried to, her body too weak to obey. Who was he? A hallucination born of the freezing night? He extended a hand, calloused and warm against the ice, but she flinched. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, his Spanish accent thick with the mountain's cadence. "The name's Tomas. You've been calling to us without knowing it. The moon, it reveals what's hidden." Tomas was a sentinel of the pack, mid-30s, with a quiet intensity honed from years patrolling the borders. His easy smile hid the vigilance of a man who'd lost kin to the human world. He glanced over his shoulder, senses alert to the approaching howls. His packmates closing in. Sophia's mind reeled, calling to them. This had to be delirium. Yet, as Thomas's warmth pierced the frost on her arm, a spark ignited inside her, chasing away the numbness. Memories flickered unbidden, childhood dreams of running on all fours, her mother's hushed stories of family secrets dismissed as fairy tales. Rosa had always changed the subject, her eyes distant, as if guarding a wound. Was this real? The pull in her chest eased slightly, replaced by a tentative warmth, like embers stirring to life. Suddenly, shouts echoed from the village trail, lanterns bobbing like fireflies, voices calling her name. Javier led the search party, his burly frame pushing through the brush, Rosa close behind, her face streaked with tears. Don Miguel limped along, muttering prayers to the old gods. "Sofia, mi hija," Rosa cried, her voice cracking the night, but Tomas tensed, his eyes narrowing. "Hunters," he growled softly. "Not the village folk, worse. The pack had enemies, rival shifters, or worse, human trackers from the cities, drawn by rumors of monsters in the hills. If they found Sofia now, in her vulnerable state, the bond could shatter forever." Tomas scooped her up effortlessly, her head lolling against his shoulder. "Hold on," he whispered. "The Alpha's coming. He'll explain." Sofia wanted to protest, to scream for her mother, but the motion lulled her, the frost retreating as they melted into the shadows. The howls shifted, guiding them deeper into the Sierra, away from the lights of El Silencio. Behind them, the search party pressed on, oblivious to the ancient forces at play. In the pack's heart, Reyes caught Elena's eye as they crested a ridge. The scent of her, of pine and fear and untapped power, hung in the air. "She's close," he said, a rare smile tugging at his lips. For the first time in years, hope flickered amid the tension. But dangers lurked. The moon's trial wasn't over, and the hunter's shadows lengthened with every passing minute. What would Sofia choose when the truth hit her like a winter gale, home or the wild unknown? Sofia's world dissolved into a haze of motion and muffled howls as Thomas carried her through the labyrinth of pines and rocky outcrops. The frost's grip loosened with every step he took, but her body still ached, a dull throb pulsing from her scraped knee to her numb fingers. She clung to his shirt, the fabric rough against her cheek, inhaling the scent of damp earth and wild musk that seemed to seep from his skin. The moon filtered through the canopy above, its light dappled and deceptive, turning the trail into a silver-veined maze. Branches whipped past, snagging at her hair, but Tomas moved with effortless grace, his breath steady where hers came in shallow gasps. "Why me?" she managed to whisper, her voice cracking like dry leaves underfoot. Tomas glanced down, his amber eyes softening in the dim glow. He was no stranger to fear. He'd seen it in the eyes of lost ones before, the ones who fought the bond until it broke them. "Because the blood calls, Sofia. Yours has been waiting for this moon. The pack, we're family, even if you've forgotten." His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken history, stirring fragments in her mind. Nightmares of golden eyes watching from the tree line during her childhood hikes with Rosa. But family. Her family was the adobe walls of El Silencio, the sizzle of Rosa's tortillas on the comal, not this shadowy flight from everything she knew. Deeper in the Sierra, the pack converged like threads pulling tight on a loom. Reyes led the way, his senses sharpened to a razor's edge, picking up Sofia's scent amid the pine resin and frost-kissed air. Elena flanked him, her boots silent on the needle-strewn path, while Lobo ranged ahead, his youthful energy barely contained as he shifted partially, claws extending for better grip on the slick rocks. "She's got spirit," Lobo called back, his grin flashing white in the moonlight. At 24, he was the pack's spark, always quick with a quip to cut the tension, but tonight his jokes fell flat. Mira brought up the rear, her healer's kit slung over her shoulder, murmuring ancient words under her breath to ward off the moon's lingering chill. She'd lost a sister to the frost years ago, a reminder that not all awakenings ended in welcome. The trail steepened, winding into a narrow ravine where the wind whistled through crevices like lost souls. Thomas adjusted his hold on Sophia, her weight light as a fawn in his arms. "Almost there," he said, more to reassure himself than her. But a distant crack echoed, a branch snapping too deliberate for wildlife. He froze, ears straining. The hunters, not the village search party whose lanterns had veered off toward a false trail Lobo had laid earlier. These were the real threat, a rogue band of human trackers, ex-military types from the cities, drawn by bounty whispers of beasts in the mountains. Led by a man named Vargas, a scarred veteran with a grudge against anything that defied his world, they moved like ghosts, armed with rifles and thermal scopes that pierced the night. Sophia stirred, her eyes fluttering open to the blur of trees rushing by. The warmth from Thomas spread through her veins now, chasing the last of the numbness, but it brought clarity and questions that burned hotter than the cold ever had. My mother. She'll think I'm gone forever, like the others. The disappearances in El Silencio weren't just rumors. They were echoes of this, she realized with a jolt. Young folks pulled into the wild, never to return, their families left with altars of candles and unanswered prayers. Thomas's jaw tightened. Some come back changed, some don't, but you're not lost yet. A low growl rumbled from the shadows ahead, Lobo signaling danger. Reyes raised a fist, halting the pack. They crouched behind a cluster of boulders, the ravine's walls looming like silent judges. Sophia's heart raced as Thomas set her down gently, propping her against a tree trunk slick with moss. Her legs wobbled, but the bond's spark held her upright, a faint hum in her blood like the distant strum of a guitar at the festival. "Stay quiet," Thomas urged, his form blurring as he shifted halfway, fur sprouting along his arms, claws glinting. Vargas's men were close now, their boots crunching gravel, voices low and laced with menace. "The girl's the key," one muttered, a wiry fellow named Paco with a nervous tick and a knife scarred from too many fights. "Boss says the pack's alpha will show for her. We take 'em all." Vargas himself, broad and balding under a battered hat, scanned the darkness with cold efficiency, his rifle slung low. He'd hunted shifters before, selling pelts and stories to black market collectors in Juarez, his hatred born from a raid that cost him his eye, a pack retaliation he never forgave. Elena pressed close to Reyes, her breath warm against his ear. 3, maybe 4. We can take them." Her voice was steel, but Reyes shook his head, eyes on the ravine's mouth. Fighting here meant noise, drawing more hunters or alerting the village. "We draw them in, protect the awakening." He nodded to Mira, who slipped a vial from her kit, a mix of wolfsbane and sedative mist, harmless to their kind, but potent against humans. Lobo circled wide, his partial shift making him a shadow among shadows, ready to pounce. Sophia watched, transfixed, as the first hunter crested the rise. Panic clawed at her throat, but so did something new, instinct. Her fingers tingled, nails sharpening involuntarily, a growl building unbidden in her chest. Was this the pull? The wolf within stirring? Thomas placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Fight it or embrace it. Your choice starts now." The trap sprang silently. Lobo lunged from the underbrush, tackling Paco with a muffled thud, claws raking just enough to silence him without a shot. Elena moved like lightning, her braided hair whipping as she disarmed the second man, a knee to his gut, folding him in half. Vargas spun, rifle rising, but Reyes was there, a blur of power, wrenching the weapon away with a snarl that echoed off the rocks. "Not tonight," he growled, his voice the thunder Sophia had half remembered from dreams. Vargas staggered back, eyes widening at the Alpha's amber gaze, but Mira's mist bloomed in the air, a silvery fog that dropped him like a stone. In moments, the threat lay bound and gagged, dragged into a crevice to sleep off the haze. The pack exhaled, tension coiling anew as they gathered around Sophia. Reyes stepped forward, towering and unyielding, yet his eyes held a depth that pierced her soul. "Welcome to the edge, Sofia Ramirez. The moon's chosen you, but the pack decides if you stay." She met his gaze, fear mingling with a fierce curiosity. Home? This wild heart of the Sierra felt both alien and achingly familiar. But as the howls rose again, celebratory now, she wondered, what price would this belonging demand? Elena clapped Lobo on the back, her laugh a rare spark in the night. "Good work, pup, but this is just the beginning." Mira knelt by Sophia, checking her wounds with gentle hands, while Thomas scanned the horizon. The full moon climbed higher, its light promising trials yet to unfold. Back in El Silencio, Rosa's cries echoed unanswered, the search party turning back empty-handed. How long before they pieced together the truth? And Sophia, would she run toward the pack's embrace, or claw her way back to the life she knew? What do you think Sophia's first shift will feel like? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Raw power or terrifying loss? If this chase has your pulse racing, hit that like and subscribe. The moon's secrets are just warming up. Sophia stood there in the ravine's chill embrace, the metallic tang of adrenaline still thick on her tongue as the pack's eyes bored into her. The bound hunters lay forgotten in their crevice prison, muffled grunts fading into the night's symphony of rustling leaves and distant owl calls. Reyes's presence loomed like the Sierra's own shadow, his broad chest rising and falling with controlled breaths, the faint scar on his jaw catching the moonlight like a silver thread. He wasn't just a man. He radiated authority, the kind that made the air hum with unspoken power. Sophia's knees buckled slightly, but Tomas steadied her with a firm grip, his warmth a lifeline against the lingering frost that clawed at her edges. "You're safe for now," Reyes said, his voice a deep rumble that echoed off the stone walls, carrying the weight of mountains. He stepped closer, close enough for her to catch the scent of pine sap and aged leather clinging to him. At 35 in human years, but ancient in pack lore, Reyes had led through famines, feuds, and the creeping threat of human expansion. His dark eyes, flecked with gold, searched hers, not with pity, but with the fierce recognition of kin. "But safety's fleeting out here. The moon's pull is just the start. Tell me, Sophia, what do you feel stirring inside?" She swallowed hard, her throat raw from the cold's earlier vice. The spark Thomas had ignited bloomed warmer now, spreading through her limbs like sunlight piercing fog. It wasn't just heat. It was alive, coiling in her belly, whispering urges she couldn't name. Run, fight, belong. Memories surfaced unbidden. As a child, she'd wake from dreams of chasing shadows through the cornfields, her small hands pawing at the dirt. Rosa shushing her with tales of wild imaginings. But this felt real, undeniable, like the ground shifting beneath her feet. I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above the wind's murmur. "It's like I'm splitting in two. Part of me wants to run back to my mother, to the lights of the village. The other, it wants to howl." Elena chuckled softly from Reyes's side, her obsidian eyes glinting with approval. She crossed her arms over her fitted jacket, the braids framing her face like warrior's cords. "That's the blood talking, Chica. We've all been there, torn between worlds. I was 16 when mine woke, during a raid on the old mines. Thought I'd lose my mind before the pack found me." Her tone was casual, like sharing coffee shop gossip, but the scar peeking from her collar told a harder story. Lobo hovered nearby, wiping dirt from his hands, his cheek scar twisting with a grin. "Yeah, and I barfed my first shift. Not glamorous, but hey, you're already ahead. No puking yet. Mira, ever the quiet anchor, offered Sophia a canteen of herb-infused water, her gentle hands steady despite the night's chaos. Drink slow, it steadies the change. The ravine felt smaller now, the walls pressing in as the full moon crested higher, bathing them in its unforgiving glow. Sophia sipped, the bitter tang of sage and something wilder grounding her, but questions burned hotter than any thirst. Who were these people? Shifters, wolves, whatever they called themselves, and why her? The disappearances in El Silencio flashed through her mind. Tomas Rivera, the baker's son, gone 5 years ago under a similar moon. Maria Lopez, a girl from the market with dreams as big as Sophia's, vanished without a trace. Were they here, changed like this, or lost to the frost forever? Reyes nodded toward the path ahead, a narrow ledge snaking upward into denser woods. "We can't stay. The hunters will wake, and their kind spreads word like wildfire. Come with us to the den. There, you'll learn your truth." It wasn't a request. His alpha command tugged at that inner coil, urging compliance. Sophia hesitated, glancing back toward the village's faint glow on the horizon. Rosa would be home now, lighting more candles, her calloused hands clasped in prayer. Javier might rally the men at dawn, Don Miguel muttering about spirits. The life she'd known felt a world away, fragile as the papel picado fluttering in the festival breeze. Tomas sensed her doubt, squeezing her shoulder. "Your mother's strong. She'll hold the line. But ignoring this, it'll eat you alive." His own story lingered unspoken. He'd been born to the pack, but cast out young for a reckless fight, only returning after years scraping by in the border towns. Redemption had cost him scars deeper than skin. With a deep breath, Sophia nodded, the decision settling like stones in her gut. The pack moved as one, Reyes leading with silent strides, Elena scouting the flanks. Lobo took point with Mira, their banter a low hum to mask their steps. The trail climbed, roots twisting like veins underfoot, the air growing thicker with the scent of damp moss and hidden streams. Sophia's legs burned, but the spark fueled her, each step syncing with the pack's rhythm, a primal dance she'd never learned but somehow knew. Halfway up, a low rumble shook the ground, not thunder, but something deeper, like the earth's own growl. Reyes halted, ears perking. "Rivals," he muttered, his body tensing into a predator's coil. From the tree line emerged shapes, 3 wolves, larger than the village dogs, eyes burning crimson in the moonlight. Not the pack's kin. These were from the Shadowclaw clan, outcasts who'd turned feral, raiding territories for sport. Their leader, a scarred brute named Cato with matted fur and a limp from old wars, bared fangs in a snarl that promised violence. Elena shifted first, her form blurring into a sleek black wolf, hackles raised. They've been trailing the hunter's scent. Smell opportunity. Lobo followed, his lanky frame exploding into tawny fur, a playful yip turning fierce. Sophia's heart pounded as instinct surged. Her nails lengthened, vision sharpening to catch every twitch of leaf and muscle. Tomas pulled her back. "Not yet. Watch. Learn." The clash erupted in a whirlwind of snarls and claws. Reyes met Cato head-on, his massive grey form a blur of power, slamming the rival into a trunk with bone-jarring force. Elena darted low, nipping at flanks, while Lobo harried the others, his speed a dizzying dance. Mira hung back, her silver wolf form weaving protective circles, ready with healing herbs if needed. Blood scented the air, sharp and coppery, but the pack held, driving the intruders back with coordinated fury. As the rivals fled into the underbrush, yelps fading, Reyes shifted back, chest heaving, a fresh gash on his arm already knitting under the moon's magic. He turned to Sophia, blood-streaked but unbroken. "This is our world. Fights for survival, bonds that save or break us. You're part of it now, whether you shift or not. She stared at her hands, claws retracting slowly, the power thrumming like a live wire. Fear twisted with exhilaration. This wasn't the quiet village life, but it called to something raw inside her. They pressed on to the den's edge, a concealed cave mouth veiled by vines, where firelight flickered invitingly. But as Sophia crossed the threshold, a howl pierced the night, not triumphant, but warning. From El Silencio's direction, lights multiplied, torches, vehicles. Rosa hadn't given up. The search had grown, whispers of monsters already spreading. How long before they breached the wild's veil? Inside, the pack gathered around a crackling fire, shadows dancing on rough-hewn walls, etched with ancient claw marks. Elena tossed Sophia a blanket, her smile weary but warm. Rest. Tomorrow we talk bloodlines. Sophia wrapped it around her shoulders, the warmth seeping in, but sleep evaded her. The pull was stronger here, the moon's gaze through a skylight crack, urging her toward change. What if embracing it meant losing Rosa forever? Or worse, becoming the monster the villagers feared? Reyes sat across the flames, his gaze steady. The choice is yours, but the pack protects its own. Welcome home. Home. The word hung, heavy with promise and peril, as the fire popped like unanswered questions. Hey, listeners, imagine feeling that first real surge of the wolf. Does it free you or trap you? Share in the comments what you'd do in Sophia's boots. If this pack drama's got you hooked, drop a like and subscribe. The full moon's revelations are building fast. The fire's glow painted flickering shadows across the cave walls, turning the ancient claw marks into living scars that seemed to pulse with the pack's shared heartbeat. Sophia huddled under the coarse wool blanket Eleanor had given her, the warmth battling the chill that still lingered in her bones like an uninvited guest. The den was a world unto itself, tunnels branching off from the main chamber like veins, lined with furs and woven mats that spoke of generations hidden from the sun. The air hummed with the scent of smouldering cedar and herbal poultices, a far cry from the dusty adobe of El Silencio. She could hear the pack settling, Lobo sharpening a knife with rhythmic scrapes, his easy chatter filling the quiet. Mira sorting vials in a corner alcove, her movements precise and motherly, like an aunt tending a scraped knee. Reyes sat across from her, legs crossed, the firelight catching the silver in his hair and the fresh bandage Mira had wrapped around his arm. The gash from the rival clash was already healing, a testament to the moon's gift, but it left him looking more human, vulnerable almost. He poked at the flames with a stick, sparks dancing upward like fleeing stars. "That surge you felt back there," he said, his voice low and steady, pulling her from her thoughts. "It's the first whisper of your wolf. Not everyone survives it clean. Some fight it, and the frost takes them instead." His eyes met hers, gold flecks gleaming, holding a depth that made her feel seen, exposed. Sophia pulled the blanket tighter, her claws fully retracted now, but her skin prickling with residual energy. The cave felt both sheltering and confining, the weight of the mountain above pressing down like expectations she wasn't ready for. And if I don't want it? What then? I have a life out there. My mother, the cantina, the festival lights. This feels like stealing me away. Her words tumbled out, laced with the ache of homesickness, but underneath lurked that insistent hum, the blood's call that made her fingers twitch toward the fire's wild dance. Elena leaned against the wall nearby, arms folded, her braids casting long shadows. She was the pack's steel spine, 32 years of border skirmishes and lost kin hardening her into someone who spoke truth without sugar. "We don't steal, Sophia. The moon chooses, and it chose you because your line's tied to ours. Your abuela, Rosa's mother, she was one of us, ran from the pack after a feud, hid in the village to protect you from the hunters. But blood doesn't forget. Eleanor's tone was matter-of-fact, like recounting a family recipe. But her eyes softened at the edges, remembering her own mother's flight from similar shadows. The revelation hit Sophia like a gust through the cave mouth, stirring the embers. Abuela Elena, no, the other Elena, the one who'd spun tales by the hearth of wolves that walked as men, dismissed as old wives' stories to scare naughty kids. Rosa had never spoken of her own mother after she passed, just a quiet grave on the hill with wildflowers. "She never told me," Sophia whispered, a knot forming in her throat. "Why hide it? Why let me wander blind?" Tears pricked her eyes, hot against the cool air, mixing grief with a budding anger that fueled the inner coil tighter. Lobo looked up from his knife, his scar twisting with a lopsided smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. At 24, he was the pack's light in dark times, orphaned young and raised by Reyes after a hunter raid wiped his family. "Hiding's what humans do best. My ma tried the same, thought city life would save us. Ended up with me howling at alley cats instead." He chuckled, but it was hollow, a mask for the pain he buried under jokes. Mira placed a hand on his shoulder, her reserved nature cracking with a gentle squeeze. She'd healed him through that grief, her silver-streaked hair and calm demeanor a balm for the pack's wounds. Reyes leaned forward, the fire crackling between them like a barrier thinning. "Your abuela's choice saved you then, but it's costing you now. The Shadow Claws aren't done. Cato's just the scout, and the village, they're closing in. I can smell their fear on the wind. Torches, dogs, maybe even Vargas's men stirring trouble." He paused, letting the words sink in, the cave's hush amplifying the distant drip of water like a countdown. Outside, the full moon's light slanted through the vines, calling to Sophia's blood with a siren song that made her skin itch. She stood abruptly, the blanket pooling at her feet, pacing the uneven floor. The surge built again, a pressure behind her eyes, vision sharpening to catch the veins in the cave walls, the subtle shift in Reyes's posture as he watched her. "Show me," she demanded, voice steadier than she felt. "If this is me, I need to see it, not stories, proof." It was defiance born of desperation, the village girl clashing with the wolf awakening. Reyes rose slowly, his height filling the space, but he didn't command. Instead, he nodded to the tunnel leading deeper. "The inner chamber, where we shift under guard. But know this, once you start, there's no half measures. The moon demands all." Elena and Thomas flanked her as they moved, Lobo trailing with Mira, the pack's unity a silent reassurance. The tunnel narrowed, walls etched with petroglyphs mirroring the one Sophia had seen on the boulder, wolves howling at eternal moons. In the chamber, a natural hollow ringed by glowing fungi, the air thrummed with ancient power. Reyes stripped off his jacket, scars mapping his back like a warrior's tapestry. "Breathe with the pull, let it flow." Sophia closed her eyes, the hum erupting into a roar. Bones ached, skin stretched, fur prickling through like 1,000 needles. She gasped, dropping to all fours as the world tilted, colors brighter, scents exploding. The pack's loyalty, Reyes's strength, her own wild heart. The shift came in waves, painful but exhilarating, her form elongating into sleek lines, paws padding on stone. When it settled, she lifted her head, a low whine escaping, a she-wolf with midnight fur and amber eyes, staring at her reflection in a shallow pool. The pack shifted too, surrounding her in a circle of fur and watchful gazes, their howls a chorus of welcome. But as joy surged, a sharp pain lanced her flank, not from the change, but a dart's sting. From the shadows a figure emerged, not a rival but Don Miguel, the Zelador, rifle trembling in his gnarled hands, eyes wide with superstitious fury. "Monstruous," he muttered, The village's fear made flesh, closing the gap between worlds. Reyes snarled, shielding her, but the dart's sedative burned through Sophia's veins, pulling her back to human form in a haze of weakness. The pack lunged, but Miguel fled into the tunnels, his limp echoing like betrayal. How had he found them? Whispers from the festival, or Vargas's radio? The den's safety shattered, tension coiling anew as alarms rippled through the pack. Sophia slumped against Reyes, his arms steadying her. They know now, she breathed, the wolf's power ebbing but the bond sealed. Home felt closer, yet the wild's perils sharper than ever. What would Rosa do when the truth howled back? Elena cursed under her breath, grabbing weapons. We move at dawn, but first we hunt the intruder. Lobo's grin returned, fierce now. Time to show the old man what real monsters look like. As the pack prepared, Sophia felt the moon's gaze shift, protective, yet warning of storms ahead. The disappearances were unraveling, but at what cost to her fractured heart? What secrets do you think Rosa's hiding about Sophia's bloodline? Share your theories in the comments, family betrayal or deeper pack lore. If this shift's got you shifting in your seat, smash that like and subscribe. The chase into the wild is heating up. The cave's inner chamber reeked of damp stone and the sharp bite of the sedative dart still throbbing in Sophia's flank, a dull fire that pulled at her newly shifted muscles. She slumped against the rough wall, her human form returning in fits and starts, fur receding, bones popping back into place with a sickening grind that left her gasping. Reyes knelt beside her, his large hand pressing a poultice of crushed yarrow against the wound, the herb's earthy scent cutting through the chaos. His face was a mask of controlled fury, jaw clenched so tight the scar along it stood out white in the fungi's eerie glow. Breathe through it, he murmured, his voice an anchor in the storm. The dart's poison, human-made, meant for beasts, but you're stronger. Elena paced the chamber's edge like a caged panther, her braids swinging with each sharp turn, obsidian eyes scanning the shadowed tunnels for any sign of the intruder. At 32, she'd faced down worse than a superstitious Zelador, but betrayal from the village stung deeper, cracking the fragile peace they'd carved in these mountains. That old fool, Don Miguel! How'd he track us? The festival whispers must have led him straight here. Her words were clipped, laced with the raw edge of someone who'd lost too many to human fear. Lobo hovered nearby, his lanky frame coiled for action, the scar on his cheek twitching as he gripped a hunting knife, its blade glinting like a promise. 24 and full of fire, he masked his nerves with a forced smirk. I'll sniff him out. Limp and all, he can't run far. Bet he's praying to every saint he knows right now. Mira worked methodically, her silver-streaked hair tied back as she mixed a counterbrew in a stone bowl, her gentle hands steady despite the urgency. The healer of the pack, in her late 40s, with a quiet wisdom born from burying too many young ones, she glanced at Sophia with motherly concern. The bond's holding, but this poison tests it. Rest here. We'll handle the hunt. Sophia nodded weakly, but her mind raced, the wolf's heightened senses lingering, every drip of water from the ceiling amplified, the pack's scents weaving around her like threads of loyalty and rage. The shift had been a revelation, raw power flooding her veins, but now it warred with doubt. Don Miguel wasn't just any villager. He'd watched her grow up, muttering warnings about the mountain's teeth. Had he always suspected? And Rosa, did she know the Zelador's secrets too? Reyes stood, pulling Sophia to her feet with effortless strength, his arm a solid band around her waist. The Alpha's touch sent a fresh spark through her, the bond humming like a live wire, but it couldn't drown the ache for home. Stay close, he said, guiding her back to the main chamber, where the fire still crackled defiantly. The den felt violated now, its woven mats trampled, the air thick with tension that pressed against her chest. Outside, the full moon hung merciless, its silver light seeping through the vines like an accusation, illuminating the Sierra's jagged silhouette. El Silencio's torches flickered on the distant horizon, a swarm of fireflies growing bolder, the search party evolving into something hunted and hunter. The pack split efficiently, a well-oiled machine forged in the wild's crucible. Elena and Lobo took the left tunnel, their footsteps fading into echoes, while Tomas, quiet sentinel with his perpetual vigilance, scouted the right, his partial shift making him a ghost in the dark. Reyes remained with Sofia and Mira, his presence a bulwark as he outlined the plan in low tones. Miguel's no warrior, but he's crafty. Limps from that church fall 20 years back, but his eyes miss nothing. If he reaches the village with tales of monsters, it'll bring more than torches, authorities, maybe even those city trackers like Vargas circling back. His voice carried the weight of leadership, scars on his forearms flexing as he gestured, reminders of packs lost to such leaks. Sofia leaned against him, the poultice's warmth seeping in, but her thoughts tangled with the past. The disappearances weren't random, they were awakenings gone wrong or bonds severed by fear. Tomas Rivera, the baker's son, had he shifted here, only to be driven out by rivals, and Maria Lopez with her market dreams, lost to the frost because no one came in time? The wolf inside her growled softly, a vibration in her throat urging protection for this new family. But Rosa's face haunted her, etched with worry, her calloused hands weaving baskets that now seemed like shields against truths too heavy to hold. A distant shout shattered the hush, Lobo's voice, sharp and triumphant. "Got his scent! Blood trail!" He nicked himself scrambling over rocks. The pack reconvened in the main chamber, adrenaline sharpening their movements. Elena burst in first, dragging a torn scrap of Don Miguel's poncho, the fabric reeking of tobacco and sweat. "He's heading for the old mine shaft, the one that collapses into the ravine. If he makes it, he'll spill everything to Javier and the others." Her eyes locked on Sofia, a flicker of empathy breaking through the steel. "You with us? Or do we leave you to heal?" The question hung, testing the fragile trust. Sofia pushed off the wall, ignoring the dart's lingering burn, her amber-flecked eyes meeting Reyes's. "I'm in. He saw me change. He knows my face. Can't let him turn the village against us. Against me." It was the first time she'd claimed the pack as us, the word tasting foreign yet right, like biting into forbidden fruit. Reyes nodded, pride flashing in his gaze, and they moved as one, slipping into the night through a hidden rear exit. The moonlit trail wound downward, frost glittering on boulders like shattered glass, the air crisp with pine and the faint, acrid tang of gunpowder from Miguel's rifle. They tracked him silently, the pack's unity a living thing, Lobo's nose leading, his youthful energy bounding ahead. Mira covering flanks with her healer's calm, ready for wounds. Sofia's steps synced instinctively, the wolf's grace lending her speed despite the weakness. The mineshaft loomed, a black maw yawning in the hillside, rusted timbers sagging like weary bones. Don Miguel's labored breaths echoed from within, his limp scraping the gravel. "Stay back, demonios," he rasped, voice cracking with age and terror, firing a wild shot that pinged off stone. Reyes signaled, and they fanned out. Elena circled left, her lithe form a shadow, while Lobo feinted right, drawing another shot. Sofia's heart thundered, but the bond steadied her, pushing her forward with Thomas at her side. They burst into the shaft's mouth, lantern light from Miguel's flickering in the depths. He spun, eyes widening at Sofia, human now, but changed, her posture fierce. "Nina, you're one of them?" His squint deepened, the perpetual gravel in his voice breaking. Not just fear, recognition, laced with old sorrow. Before he could fire again, Reyes lunged, disarming him with a swift twist, the rifle clattering into the dark. Lobo bound the old man's wrists with vine cord, his grin fierce. "Easy, abuelo. No more running." Miguel sagged, tears carving tracks through dust on his weathered face. "I saw the wolf in you as a girl, Sophia. The way you stared at the moon. Rosa begged me to keep quiet, said it was her curse to bear. But the disappearances, I thought I could stop it." The words landed like blows, unraveling more threads. Rosa knew. All along, the hushed stories, the warnings, they were shields for this hidden blood. Sophia knelt, meeting his eyes, the cave's chill mirroring the ice in her chest. "Why shoot? Why betray?" Miguel shook his head, limp leg twitching. "To save you from the wild, but now the village comes. Rosa leads them, torch in hand. She feels your pull too." Outside, howls. Not the packs, but dogs from El Silencio, baying as lights crested the ridge. The worlds collided, tension snapping like a bowstring. Reyes hauled Miguel up, his growl low. "We take him back, explain, or contain the storm." But as they emerged, Rosa's voice cut the night, raw with desperation. "Sophia!" The pack froze, the moon witnessing the fracture. Home called in two voices, mother's plea and the wild's roar. Which would win? Elena gripped Sophia's arm, her touch grounding. "Your choice shapes us all now." The torches advanced, shadows lengthening, promising confrontation under the unrelenting sky. "What do you think Rosa's known all along? And will she join the pack or fight it? Drop your guesses in the comments. The emotional stakes are skyrocketing. If this family reunion's got you on the edge, hit that like button and subscribe. The full moon's about to bare its teeth. The moon's unyielding gaze bathed the mine shaft's entrance in a spectral sheen, turning the advancing torches into a river of fire snaking down the ridge. Sophia's breath caught in her throat, the sedative's haze sharpening into crystal fear as Rosa's voice pierced the night again. "Sophia! ¿Dónde estás, mi niña?" Raw and unbreakable, like the wind tearing through the Sierra's pines. The pack stood frozen in the shadows, a taut circle of muscle and instinct, the air thick with the scent of burning pitch and the metallic edge of impending clash. Reyes's hand tightened on Don Miguel's arm, the old zelador sagging between him and Tomas, his squint now wide with the terror of consequences he'd unleashed. Rosa emerged from the tree line first, her sturdy frame silhouetted against the flames, a torch held high in one calloused hand while the other clutched a rosary that dangled like a lifeline. At 55, she looked smaller under the moon's weight, her grey-streaked hair escaping its bun in wild strands, but her eyes, dark and fierce, mirrors of Sophia's own, scanned the darkness with a mother's unerring pull. Behind her, Javier lumbered with a shotgun slung over his shoulder, his burly tattooed arms tense, the virgin on his skin seeming to watch judgmentally. The cantina owner had rallied the village men. Farmers with pitchforks, a few vaqueros on horseback, their shadows long and wavering. Don Miguel's limp had bought them time, but his wild shots had drawn this storm. Sophia stepped forward, the wolf's lingering spark urging her to bridge the gap, but her human heart hammered with doubt. The ground crunched under her boots, frost still clinging to the grass like fragile warnings. "Mama!" she called, her voice cracking, carrying across the clearing. The word hung, pulling Rosa's gaze straight to her, widening those eyes in a mix of relief and horror. "Sophia, gracias a Dios." But then Rosa's sight flicked to the pack, Reyes's towering form, Elena's coiled readiness, Lobo's knife glinting low, and the torch trembled. "What have they done to you? Get away from those things!" Elena shifted her weight, braids swaying as she positioned herself between Sophia and the villagers, her obsidian eyes narrowing. "We're not the monsters here, Senora. Your daughter's blood called her home." At 32, Elena had mediated enough border skirmishes to know words could diffuse or ignite, but her voice held the edge of someone who'd buried friends to human pitchforks. Lobo flanked her, his youthful grin replaced by a predator's focus, the scar on his cheek pulling tight. "Yeah, And your Zelador, here's the one who shot first. We could have left him to the ravine. Mira hung back with Tomas, her healer's kit ready, gentle hands clenched. She'd seen families tear apart before, the wild claiming what humanity couldn't hold. Reyes released Don Miguel with a shove toward the villagers, the old man stumbling into Javier's grasp, coughing out gravelly apologies. I tried to protect her, Rosa. The moon, it takes them. But Rosa ignored him, pushing through the line, her skirts brushing frost-laced bushes. Up close, her face was a map of exhaustion, lines etched deeper by the night's vigil, the scent of home-cooked carnitas and worry clinging to her. She reached for Sophia, fingers brushing her daughter's arm, but recoiled at the warmth still humming from the bond. This isn't you, mi amor. Come back. The village is safe. These hills swallow people whole. Sophia's throat tightened, tears blurring the torchlight into halos. The pull warred inside her, the pack's chorus of howls echoing in her mind like a second heartbeat versus Rosa's touch, grounding her in memories of adobe warmth and festival dances. You knew, didn't you? About Abuela, the blood. Why hide it? I could have been ready. The words spilled out, laced with the betrayal that fueled the wolf's restless stir. Rosa's eyes dropped, rosary beads clicking. Your abuela fled the pack after they killed my father in a territory fight. She made me promise, no wild, no danger. I wove baskets to forget, lit candles to keep you human, but the moon, it always finds us. Javier stepped up, shotgun rising slightly, his quick smile gone, replaced by the hard stare of a man protecting his own. Sophia, we've lost too many to these stories. Tomas, Maria, they didn't come back whole. If these folks are forcing you... His voice trailed, doubt flickering. He'd seen her at the cantina, strong but restless, the moon always pulling her gaze outward. The vaqueros muttered, horses stamping, the air electric with fear that could snap into violence. Reyes moved then, his presence parting the tension like a stone through water, scars on his forearms catching the firelight. No force, the bond chooses. Sophia's one of us, lost kin, not prey. His voice rumbled, alpha command threading through, but he kept it leashed, eyes on Rosa with a respect born of shared loss. At 35 in appearance but centuries deep, he'd witnessed human packs entwine before, fragile alliances shattered by misunderstanding. Join us, or let her choose, but the hunters, Vargas's kind, they're the real threat. They'll burn both worlds to claim a bounty. The villagers shifted uneasily, whispers rippling like wind through cornstalks. Don Miguel, supported by Javier, rasped, "He's right. I saw the eyes in the shadows, not spirits, but men with guns." Rosa's torch dipped, flames hissing against damp earth, her gaze locking on Sophia's amber-flecked eyes. "If I let you go, will you come back? Or am I losing you like Abuela lost me?" The question broke something in Sophia, the wolf whining softly in her chest, urging unity over fracture. Before she could answer, a sharp crack echoed from the ridge. Not a shot, but a rival howl, Cato's shadow claws answering the disturbance, crimson eyes glinting from the tree line. The pack tensed, Elena drawing a blade, Lobo shifting partially with a growl. Vargas's bound men must have stirred, or the noise drawn the ferals, opportunists smelling blood. Torches wavered as villagers spun, dogs barking wildly. The worlds collided fully now, the moon's light fracturing into chaos, shadows lunging from the dark. Sophia grabbed Rosa's hand, the bond surging to encompass her mother. "Come with us, both homes, we make them one." But as claws met steel and howls drowned cries, the night erupted, the full moon whispering of choices that could save or doom them all. Reyes roared, leading the charge, while Sophia pulled Rosa into the fray, the wild's embrace tightening around her fractured family. How far would the pack go to protect what the moon had claimed? Elena slashed at a feral's flank, her laugh fierce amid the snarls. "This is pack life, fight or fade." Lobo darted through legs, nipping at heels, his energy a whirlwind. Mira hurled a sedative vial at a villager's overzealous swing, her calm shattering into resolve. But in the melee, Sophia caught a glimpse of Vargas, freed and rifle raised from the shadows, his scarred eye fixed on Reyes. The storm peaked, bonds tested in blood and fire, the Sierra bearing witness to a night that would redefine home forever. The chaos erupted like a thunderclap in the moonlit clearing, shadows twisting into a frenzy of snarls, shouts, and the acrid bite of gunpowder. Sophia's hand clamped around Rosa's, her mother's calloused fingers cold and trembling, despite the torch's dying flicker. The full moon hung overhead, bloated and indifferent, casting the Sierra's ravine in stark silver that turned blood to quicksilver on the frost-kissed ground. Claws raked against pitchforks, howls drowned out cries of "monstrous!" and the air thickened with the metallic tang of fear and fury. Sophia's wolf surged within, no longer a whisper but a roar, fueling her steps as she dragged Rosa toward the pack's line, the bond pulling like an unbreakable tether. Reyes charged into the fray, his massive form a blur of grey fur and raw power, tackling a Shadowclaw feral mid-leap. The rival's crimson eyes flashed hatred before Reyes's jaws clamped on its shoulder, sending it yelping into the underbrush. At 35 in human guise, but timeless in command, the Alpha moved with the precision of a storm, scars on his hide, knitting even as new ones bloomed. "Protect the kin!" he bellowed, his voice cutting through the din like a blade, rallying the pack. Elena danced through the melee nearby, her black wolf form sleek and lethal. Braids vanished into fur as she slashed at a villager's overeager swing, disarming him without a kill. Her obsidian eyes fierce but measured, the beta's loyalty a shield for all. Lobo weaved like lightning, his tawny pelt a streak amid the chaos, nipping at feral heels and dodging shotgun blasts from Javier's frantic group. 24 and wired with untamed energy, he yipped a challenge at Cato, the scarred brute lunging from the tree line with matted fur and a limp that didn't slow his savagery. "Come on, ugly! I've danced with worse at the cantina!" Lobo taunted in a half-shift, voice gravelly between forms, his cheek scar twisting as he feinted left and struck right, driving the rival back. Mira covered their flanks, her silver wolf hurling herself at a Shadowclaw scout, gentle healer turned guardian, her snarls low and protective as she guarded Thomas's side. The sentinel, ever vigilant, pinned a villager with a warning growl, his amber eyes pleading understanding over violence, but the true venom slithered from the shadows. Vargas, freed from his bonds by the uproar, his scarred face twisted in vengeful glee under the battered hat. The ex-military tracker leveled his rifle at Reyes's exposed back, the barrel glinting coldly. "End of the line, beast," he muttered, finger tightening on the trigger. Sophia saw it first, the wolf's sharpened sight piercing the torch smoke, the glint, the intent, the end of everything. Time fractured. Rosa's gasp echoed in her ears, the pack's howls a distant chorus. No more hesitation. The surge hit like a dam breaking, bones cracking and reforming in a blaze of agony and ecstasy. Fur erupted along her skin, midnight black and shimmering, her body elongating into the she-wolf she'd glimpsed in the pool. Paws hit the earth with thunderous force, propelling her forward in a leap that blurred the world into sense and instinct. She barreled into Vargas mid-shot, the rifle barking harmlessly into the sky as her shoulder slammed his chest, sending him sprawling across frost-slick rocks. Claws raked his arm, not to kill, but to disarm, the rifle skittering into the dark. Vargas scrambled back, eyes wide in the moon's glare, his grudge crumbling against the raw power of her gaze. Amber eyes, locking on his single good one. "What the hell are you?" he wheezed, but Sophia's wolf form held, a low growl rumbling from her throat, the bond's warmth chasing away the last of the sedative's fog. She shifted back just enough to speak, voice husky and threaded with the wild. "Not your monster. Go, before the pack finishes what you started." Vargas staggered to his feet, clutching his bleeding arm, the fight draining from him as the villagers faltered. Javier lowered his shotgun, face paling at Sofia's transformation, the tattooed virgin on his sleeve seeming to weep sweat. "Dios mío, Sofia, it's true." Don Miguel, slumped against a tree, muttered prayers, his limp leg forgotten in the oar. The shadow claws, sensing the tide turn, melted into the tree line with Cato's defeated yelp leading their retreat. Opportunists routed by the pack's unity. Rosa pulled free from Sofia's grasp, but not in fear. In fierce embrace, her sturdy arms wrapping around her daughter's trembling form as the shift ebbed fully. Tears carved paths down her cheeks, mixing with the night's frost. "Mi niña, I hid it to save you, but the moon was right. You're both, village and wild." The rosary dangled between them, a bridge now, not a barrier. Sofia buried her face in Rosa's shoulder, inhaling the familiar scent of cornfields and woven baskets, the wolf inside purring in contentment. The disappearance's curse broke here, under the full moon's watchful eye. No more lost souls freezing in isolation, but a family reforged in fire and fang. Reyes approached slowly, human again, his chest heaving but eyes soft with rare victory. He nodded to Rosa, respect in the gesture. "The den's open to you both. The pack grows stronger with kin like yours." Elena sheathed her blade, braids disheveled, a grin cracking her steel facade. "Welcome to the madness, Senora. We've got stories that'll curl your toes." Lobo whooped, clapping Javier on the back as the cantina owner holstered his gun, the tension dissolving into wary handshakes. Mira tended the minor wounds. A villager's gash, a pack's bruise, her gentle hands weaving peace. As dawn's first blush crept over the Sierra, tinting the moon's silver to gold, the group dispersed, villagers heading back to El Silencio with tales that would blend myth and truth, no longer fearing the wild, but guarding it. Vargas vanished into the shadows, his hunt broken, the black market whispers silenced. Sofia walked between Reyes and Rosa, the pull now a harmonious hum, home no longer a choice, but a circle encompassing village lights and mountain howls. In the den's warmth as the pack gathered around the fire, Sofia felt whole, the frost's chill a memory, the alpha's whisper echoing in her soul. "Come home." And she had. Hey, what a ride under that full moon! Did Sofia's choice hit you right in the feels? If this tale of lost bonds and wild hearts kept you glued, drop a like, subscribe for more stories that pull you into the shadows, and share in the comments. Would you embrace the pack or fight for the village life? The Sierra's secrets linger. Stay tuned.